and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
I'm Nick.
And today we're swinging in with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Disney Plus's newest take on the Wallcrawler. I am very excited to talk to you about this today, Nick. Other than Star Wars, I feel like of all like the major media that's out there, I feel like this is the one that you and I like bond over the most.
Yeah, I agree with that. Spider-Man and Marvel, anything Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel as a whole, but it really started with Spider-Man, though.
Yeah, that's true. We go way back with our Spider-Man, all the way back to when? What was it? The Nintendo GameCube Spider-Man game is my furthest memory.
Oh my God!
You remember that?
Dude, I think it goes back even further than that. But you're referring to the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 1 video game on the Nintendo GameCube,
Yes.
in which I had to be instructed how to use the C stick.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd still be stuck on that level all these years later.
That's like one of my earlier memories. Of course, it goes further, but
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Fox Kids 90s cartoon, I
Yep.
think, is what started it for us.
yeah, and then also the MTV Spider-Man series, which only had like 13 episodes, which we loved.
Yeah, damn shame. And I'm so glad you brought that up because like I get MTV Spider-Man vibes from this show, like in the way that it's animated.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. Although I do think the animation it feels more like, I don't know if boxy is the word. Um, I don't know. I remember the one from MTV being a little bit more fluid, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah, I think I know what you mean there. Because like they're going for like that comic book art style,
Yeah,
right?
that's a great way to put it.
And
Yeah.
I know what you mean as far as like that fluidity goes. Like when they're in like normal talking scenes, the animation does feel like it is a little more stilted,
Yeah.
right? In the action pieces, like it looks really good,
Yeah.
like when things are supposed to be moving, right?
Right.
But you're right. I think that's a budget thing where when they're not moving, like or when they're just like talking, nothing is moving.
Right. Which it's not a big deal. It's just a kind of a something I noticed.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think overall so far, first two episodes, I've really enjoyed them. Some weird like similarities to our you know, Marvel universe in a couple ways.
Oh, I have
Uh,
thoughts about that. I want to.
so we'll
We'll
get
get
into
into
that,
that.
but I'll let you kick us off with where we want to start here.
Cool. So we got our first two episodes and titled "Amazing Fantasy" and then the Parker Luck. Two references into the overall lore of Spider-Man. Of course, Amazing Fantasy being where Spider-Man originally came from, Amazing Adult Fantasy. And then the second episode referring to the fact that Peter Parker is just always down on his luck and things just always suck. Um, so I think that this has been a great start. I think this has been very promising. I've been a huge simp for Spider-Man over the years, even bad Spider-Man. And like honestly, as far as like shows go, I think this is probably the best show we've gotten since like Spectacular Spider-Man back in the day. Um, but yeah, it's super fun. I love that we have like a gang of characters that aren't typically on screen or typically ever associated with
Mhm.
Spider-Man, which is really cool. Um, and I don't know, I just like I love the representation of the neighborhood. I love the overall vibe, the happy-go-luckiness of it. But at the same time, it also feels like there's something very like sinister, like creeping in the background of the neighborhood. That's kind of like my overall like first impression of these first two episodes. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's felt weirdly off, but like in an intriguing and interesting way. Kind of, what you alluded to about something in the background that we don't know yet. And I think whatever that is making it feel a little weird at first. Like, I'm not really used to Peter being a cool kid, and he's kind of like a cool kid, but he's also like a nerd who is unlucky. But then he's got um, Norman Osborn, like, basically recruiting him, which I'm still wondering about that because he recruited him originally when I was like, oh, does he already know he's Spider-Man? But then at the end of the second episode, it almost feels like he just discovered that he was Spider-Man after he was at Oscorp. So I'm that whole thing is going to unravel a little bit, and we'll get more clarity, which will be fun. But yeah, it's a little. It feels like a different Spider-Man story than what we're used to so far, right? Like we've got some similarities, of course, and we got a quick little origin story, and we got a similarity to across the universe, right, or across the Spider-Verse. Um, his spider comes from another dimension to bite him. Uh, so yeah, all around, it feels like we're kind of piecing together other storylines into this one.
Let's start off here with our in-depth discussion on something that you already touched on, Nick, and that's Peter himself. I feel like that's a great place to start. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head where I feel like this Peter does feel he has very similar qualities to like the Tom Holland like
Yeah.
Spider-Man as like someone who's like very awkward but like in a funny way that's relatable, right? Um, but I do agree with you on the fact that like this Peter seems to know love and like popularity in a way that Peter usually doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Peter's usually like on the outskirts of being popular, and like
Right.
I truly do love the relationship that they're building with Lonnie Lincoln, which get into that later. Um, I just like the fact that it wasn't like we were expecting like a Flash Thompson to be the role of that guy that's gonna mess with Peter, and that character doesn't really seem to exist unless we're talking about over at Oscorp,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm blanking on his name, but the scientist who is giving him a hard time, but it's a little bit different than
Dr.
like a
Whitman.
peer. Doctor, yes, exactly. Say it again.
Dr. Whitman.
Thank you, Dr. Whitman. That's why there are two of us. Um, um, but yeah, it's a little different when it's not one of his peers who's giving him a hard time. So I think it's interesting that that character hasn't emerged yet. Granted, it's only been 2 episodes, and it feels like we were really fleshing out the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So maybe there's still time for that. But as far as like what that episode 2 is referencing, as far as that Parker luck goes,
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes hand in hand with what you just said, Nick, about him being popular. Like him being late for something like is like a very Peter Parker thing to happen, but it's also like not just tied with the fact that like he's too busy being Spider-Man. That is a big part of it, but also because like Peter makes bad choices. Like the typical Peter Parker makes bad choices, right?
Right.
And it's all like a learning process for him. So I feel like that second episode is kind of misappropriately named actually.
Hmm.
Because I don't think we really saw the Parker luck on like full display in that episode. Not that I think that episode's bad. I overall really like the show so far. But just like things that I'm hoping flesh their way out. I hope we do see a little bit more of Peter. Not that I want to see Peter down on his luck, but that's what makes the character relatable, right?
Right.
So I want to see. I guess I like this Peter, but I want to see some more traditional Peter aspects to him.
Yeah. And I'm sure we're trending in that direction. I mean, now somebody knows he's Spider-Man, and of course that person's like the most powerful character in New York. So um, this is going to get interesting. I'm what I love about superhero stories, especially ones that are like kind of origin story esque, right? Like this one essentially is an origin story. Um, is you get to see like how they get their new suit, right? Like so we kind of pick up like what is it, a couple of months later after he gets
Yeah.
bit, and he's got he made his own suit and he's got this whole thing. So it's nice we kind of skip like the interim pieces there, but obviously the spider suit that he's got now is not what he's going to have. It's not his main one, right? It's not the iconic one, right? It's like the precursor to him getting a real one. And so I'm always like a stan for just the little piece of story where we find out like how he gets his next level of superhero suit. So it'll be cool to see what that looks like in the story and how he gets it. I'm kind of thinking it's probably going to have to do with Norman. I'm assuming Norman Osborn's going to help him at first, use all the technology, right, and then go from there. But yeah, we'll see. He met Harry Osborn too, didn't he?
He did.
Beginning.
Yeah, he met
Yeah.
Harry.
So already I'm thinking, well, how are they going to go with this? Like, who's going to be the Green Goblin? And probably Norman, but who knows? We get a Dr. Connors sighting as well, played by a
Yeah, we
female
got
this
a
time.
gender swapped Connors.
Yeah, so we've got, we have someone from Wakanda as well. There's like a lot of call outs in the first two episodes, so it's interesting.
It is one of my favorite. So there's a lot of characters that have been added to this that aren't normally associated with Peter.
Right.
Like Nico. Nico is a character from the Runaways. Very, and as far as I know, I don't think they're typically seen as the same age. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure they're not. So that was an interesting choice that she takes on like the Ned character or like the Gwen Stacy character, right? Odd choice there. Pearl also, she's more recent to Marvel Comics and definitely doesn't have anything associated with Peter. The one who does though, and I'm so interested to see where this is going. Let's just say one of the characters in the high school is like a well-known villain. And I'm very interested to see where that story is gonna go. Nick, earlier you mentioned that the show feels off, right? There's something that feels off about it. I have a theory. I have a theory about what's going on here. And it excites me because like I really do think I'm onto something here. Okay. So as you pointed out, there's some similarities to our MCU. And from what I understand, this show was supposed to be originally a prequel to Homecoming. Right? They changed it. It was going to be called Spider-Man Freshman Year originally, and they changed it to Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and they said, yeah, it's not going to be in the MCU. Okay. But those similarities to the MCU are still there. And I think they wanted us to notice all of those things, right? So I think this Peter is very much supposed to be like what was going to be the Tom Holland Peter, right? Like the Peter who meets Iron Man and becomes an Avenger, right? Goes to space, gets dusted, all of that. I think he is supposed to be that. But the incident with Doctor Strange changed everything. It changes Peter, where Peter goes to school, which ends up changing everything, right? And one of the reasons why I think this is Marissa Tomei.
Yes.
Who's not in this. However, Aunt May.
Yeah, Aunt May is definitely modeled after
Marissa
her.
Tomei.
It's
right?
For sure her. Yep.
It looks exactly like her. Like they weren't trying to make a different Aunt May
not
at
even,
all. It's just
her.
Marissa Tomei.
It's her. 100%.
Yeah. So there's that. There's the whole end sequence of the first episode, where he's web slinging and he's trying to stop the bank robbery, right? And he catches the car in front of the bus. That's the video that Tony Stark saw, right? And then of course the end, which is like this hard, like we get the what's the song, Nick? You know the song. With your left hand free.
I don't remember. I wasn't listening to the song.
It's the same song.
Is it the same song it plays?
In Civil War, when Tony says, "I'm gonna go," like I think I know a guy, and he goes to New York. That's the song that comes on. When Peter Parker shows up in his apartment and Tony's there.
That scene at the end is the exact same too, right? He sees
the
car,
same scene.
Sees the really cool car outside, walks in the house, like, "Hey, May, there's this really awesome car outside," and then he sees Norman Osborn sitting on the couch, not Tony Stark.
Right.
And this scene basically is the same. It's the exact same.
Right. Yeah. I don't think that that's a reference. I think that's supposed to tell the viewer there's something very wrong with what's going on here. This isn't what's supposed to be happening.
So Doctor Strange showing up, essentially, it's a branch timeline. Maybe.
Yes.
This is a branch timeline. I like that theory.
Because like when Strange shows up, he says the first thing he says is, "Where are we?" He sees the name of the school, and then he says, "We're not supposed to be here."
Right. Yep. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Branch timeline, especially with that spider coming down from whatever universe Strange was supposed to be in.
Right.
So, super interesting.
Very interesting. I love the premise.
Yeah.
Very exciting stuff. Also, the fact that we got a Venom creature so early on in the show. I'm always a sucker for that, too.
So ridiculous.
What a horrible first day of school.
Yeah.
But yeah, excited for. I'm just excited for, I guess, a lot of the plots that have been put down. There's a
Yep.
lot of different plot lines that have been put down.
There are. Yeah, there's a lot. But yeah, awesome, solid first 2 episodes. Solid first 2 episodes.
Yeah, agreed. I'm really excited to see what's coming next. Just as a quick shout out, I think my favorite sequence of the entire like 2 episode premiere randomly was just Lonnie walking home. I loved that. It was such a random segue, but like you get to see the neighborhood and you get
Yeah.
like depth into this character.
Yep.
That tells me that this is a show that's like it's really like gonna try and stick to the guns of like this is a show as much about Spider-Man as it is the neighborhood. No, one more thing.
Ooh.
Sorry, one more thing.
One more.
Last thing. One more thing. So I was looking at the social media buzz for this show, and something I wasn't expecting was for those of you who follow voice actors, voice actresses, Sarah Natterkenny, who is most famously known for being Ash Ketchum in Pokemon. She posted with one of the actors. I think it's the actor who plays Lonnie Lincoln. I could be wrong. I'm not sure who it was, but in any case, she posted with one of the actors. Said, I'm really happy and proud about this project. I went on a dive. I was like, wait, is she in this show? Went on a dive, couldn't find anything. I was like, I guess I was wrong. Then I saw she posted a tweet in which she said, I am in this show. Go watch it. And again, I went to go to IMDb this time to look at the cast. She's not listed at all, which makes me think that she's going to be some sort of surprise character. And I have no idea who that could possibly be, given her voice. Well, I guess she has many voices, but given her talents, I have no idea who that could possibly be.
Interesting. Well, that's something to look forward to as well.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. So we'll be on the lookout for Sarah. Love her work. But yeah, we'll probably won't pick this up again until we get to the finale when we have a lot more to talk about with this show.
Yep.
But if you're interested in our thoughts while this show is going on, Nick, what's the best way that people can keep up?
Hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Let us know in the comments what you think about the first 2 episodes and throughout the rest of the series. And then you can find us on Threads at May the Review Be With You, where we're just going to have, we'll have our random thoughts there. And yeah, and until next time.
May the review be with you.
Peace.